So I'm here today to talk about just Angular Material, CDK, Datatables, and more. I'm Elad Bezalel, as I got introduced. I'm part of the Angular Material core team for the past 2 years. And I'm here today to talk about Angular Material and what changed since last time I was talking about it. But before we dive into what changed, let's talk about what is Angular Material. So Angular Material is a project by the Angular team with the aim to provide high-quality UI components based on the material design spec. Most of you may have used AngularJS version, but today we're here to talk about the just Angular version. Last year on, I think, December or November, I was standing on AngularUP stage and I was talking about that we hope to get to release beta 0 by the end of the year. And we actually made it. And since then, since the end of 2016, we released beta 7 last Monday. You can clap if you want, I don't push you. But, oh, thank you. So kind. So the current version is 2.0.0 beta 7, which may be referred as glass delicatessen, as my friend Google Translate says. And we're going to talk about what actually changed in these past 6 months. So what changed? I really honestly tried to put the entire changelog since beta 0, but I got an error says the image was too big. So I just pasted really small, the only changelog of this current version, beta 7, which you can see is pretty large. And I thought, how can I express all the changes that we did? And I figured out the best way is numbers. So we made, since beta 0, 876 commits, which may not sound that a lot, but 56,000 additions and almost 15,000 deletion, which is a lot. And I was thinking to myself, well, what actually changed? Oh, I was thinking that first, wow, oh my God, 56,000 addition, that's a lot. And I was thinking to myself, well, almost everything changed. Almost every one of our components has been improved and polished, so you can all use it as you see me today. And people may get afraid by the word everything changed, which may occur from the drastic move from Angular 1 to Angular whatever. But everything here stands for everything in a good way. Every component that we had really got improved, and we're continuing to add more and more components, and some of them I'm going to show you just in a minute. And while doing so, while developing all those components, we ended up having a lot of core code that is pretty generic, that we thought to ourselves, wait, if we are developing components, why can't others who develop components use this code? So we thought about something called the CDK, which stands for Component Dev Kit. In this dev kit, you'll find a lot of things that will help you to develop components. Let's say gestures and RTL for all of you guys that live in Israel and need to support bidirectionality, accessibility for ARIA, overlays, responsiveness, and so much more, and a lot of things that will help you guys that develop components to actually do it better and make your components in the same level as Material or other framework components. You'll find this CDK under @Angular/CDK, which is not released yet. You'll find it in the next couple months. And I really hope that it will help you develop a really cool components and make your components better. And speaking of the CDK, let's talk about Datatables. And I saw some eyebrows getting raised over there, what CDK and Datatables related. So while trying to develop the Datatables, which was one of the highest requested issues on Material 1, we thought to ourselves, how can we make the Datatables the best? How can we make them flexible? How can we make them good for complex implementations? So we ended up splitting the implementation of Datatables into two parts. One part called the CDK table, this is a preview. I'll show you to a working demo in a minute. One part is the CDK table that will help you guys build a really super complex tables with shifting columns and removing columns on the fly. All this sort of stuff that you can think of, you can actually do with this API. That's why it looks so complex. At first, when I looked at its code, I was like, what's going on? But then I realized this code will only be used when you guys will have to do really complex data tables. So let's take a look for a minute on a working implementation of it. This one is not yet on beta 7, but will be on the, I hope, next release. So you can see we can sort and add persons, and if you, I will make it bigger. It's not working responsive, but you can see here there are like 10,001 registers, and you can filter and paginate them, and it's working really good. And this is just a prototype, so it will be better. So the next step of the tables will be MD data table or MD table, which will be more simple to use. I think that the API is not yet finished, but you'll just bind the data source to it, and then automatically you'll have a data table working, sortable, paginatable, and all this stuff just working as it is. So look forward to it. It will be really, really cool. So what's really new on beta 7? We added more than those three stuff, but I thought it will be really cool to show you guys these three specific things. Typography was a really nice feature on Material, AngularJS Material, but we wanted to extend it, and I'll show you in a minute. Expansion panels was pretty hard to implement on AngularJS 1, and we now have it on Angular, and date pickers and custom adapters that I'll show you in a minute. So it is demo time. So I have here an application built from the Angular CLI. All I did was adding ngMaterial, and I'm going to show you the typography. So if we'll have here H1, and this is unstyled. Can you see it? Even in the back, can you see it good? All right. If we'll wait for the Webpack to build and we'll inspect this element, we can see that it gets the defaults of Chrome, which we don't, as front-end developers or maybe our designers won't like it. So, and we actually, while developing ngMaterial, we want to stick to Google Material Design. So we provide you a way to say, all right, this element needs to be as headline as the material design says. So you can have a class, mat headline, and now you can see that this style is styled. Oh, there's a leftover. Sorry. We'll build this in a second. So you can see now this H1 is styled according to material design. And we thought to ourselves, all right, this was the same approach as we had on Material 1, but we wanted to have a really nice way to take all those H1s inside your application and style them just as it is. Like every time you write H1, you don't want to also write class, mat headline. So we provide you this class called mat typography, and inside of it, you'll have every H1 will be just better. So you'll see this H1 is automatically styled according to material design. But what if, thank you guys, you shouldn't have. No, that was it. Yeah, return them. All right, so what if our designer doesn't like the way Material Design is having the fonts or the size of the font? What if we want to change it ourselves? So just as we are doing theming with SAS mixins, we have the same way for typography. So we will create a config of our typography, and then we'll just override the defaults of Angular Material. So let's create my config, or my typography. And then we'll use a mixin called myTypography config. And in this config, we can say, I want the headline to be, and then I use the myTypography level, which gets font size, line height, and font weight. We'll say, I want all my headlines to be 52 pixels. Let's say we want them to have 30 pixel line height, and I want them to be like really thick. And the next thing we'll want to do, we'll want to say, use the Angular Material typography function, or mixin, call it, and give it our config. And just like that, 7 lines, we just styled our entire application to have this H1 all over. And you can actually override almost every component, almost every material component, just as easy as that. So if we have a button, which is, of course, Angular Material button, and if we'll take a look at it, it's just small and nice. And let's say we want to change only the button. So we can add button here, and then 32 pixels, whatever, and let's make it really thin. So currently, I overridden the entire buttons in my application to be like that. They're now bigger and thinner. And with these mixins, I can only override the material button, so I can use mat button typography, and just as that, I overrided only the buttons. So it gives you really good versatility to take every component of our own, or whatever HTML tag that you want, and override it. And you can even use your own classes with it. So let's say I have my class, and I want to take the font size out of the headline. So I can do mat font size, and I give it a config, which is my typography, and I say I want the headline. And now, when I use this class over here, my class, I have the size, the font size of H1. And you can see it has the same font size of H1, which is even not styled here. If we'll reapply the style, Angular Material typography, you'll see they have the same size, but not the same font weight. So this is really cool. You can use it today on beta 7, and you can actually make your typography even better for readability. Next thing we want to do, I want to show you the expansion panels, which is really cool. So expansion panels are something that was not from the beginning of material design, but they got there in the middle, and it was highly requested as well in material. And we couldn't have a way to measure the height, the end height of the panel itself. But as now we have the cool animation engine that Matthias wrote, and it's super easy right now. So we said, why not? Why not do it right now? So we have an expansion panel, and inside this expansion panel we have a header. Inside the header we have title, And let's say, hey, AngularUP. AngularUP. And next to it, we can have a description. What's up? And here we can have some content. If we'll take a look, it works really good. It expands, and it just works as it is. And we can even add actions to it and say, have a button here. Let's call it close. And have another one, save. Those two will be in the button. And it will automatically expand to the height of the buttons and also style them as the buttons here in the typography. So we can take this panel and give it a name, as you might know, and actually bind it here to the click function and say panel close. And now every time they close, they press the close, it will just close this panel. Yeah, I know. It's pretty cool. Another thing we can do is we can make them as an accordion. So we have MD accordion, and I just copy-pasted 3 times the same panel as before. I'll just give him another name here. Excuse me, I'm not with my mice, and the touchpad is really awful. And then you'll see I have them opened as accordion, and you can extend it. They have so many API that you can take a look. And it actually, I forgot one, and it works. Yeah. Thank you. And that's really cool, I know. And you can use it as well today, Beta 7. It's already out there, and it's just working out of the box. The next thing I want to show you is something as well that wasn't available on Material, actually on Angular itself before. And by having the environment of TypeScript and modules, we can do the thing that I'm going to show you. So first of all, let's have a date picker. So we will create a date picker, and we'll give it a name, picker. And this component itself is only the panel that expands out of the input. We took another direction while building those components, so we can have, as we said, we can do multiple things with the date pickers, and we can actually change it. So this component itself, MD date picker, is just the panel that gets open. So we have to have an input above it or whatever else. So let's say MD input container, and inside of it we'll have input. And this input, we'll have to bind it to the picker, so MD date picker, and we'll give it the picker itself. And we're going to, of course, MD input, and let's have a placeholder, choose a date. Let's see what we got right now. So we do have an input, and you can see the date picker is not getting opened, and that's because we need to have a toggle button. So let's create a button here, and we'll bind it to MD date picker toggle as well to the picker itself. And you can see it automatically adds the icon, but it's not well aligned, so we should add MD suffix, which is part of the API of input, the empty input container. And you can see right now it's here, and it's working, and also all the buttons inside the picker itself are well, as well as the typography that we set earlier. But what if we want to say, I want the format here to be something else. Let's say I want to use moment as my date provider, and let's say I want to show how many days until or before this date that I chose. So we're going to do it, and that's the part that I said you couldn't do earlier. So we have this entire idea of data adapters, which you can take this data adapter and implement it yourself and use whatever date you're using, if it's the native date or is it the moment date, and you can actually implement it and then make Angular use this implementation and not the native one. So we're going to do something of that. So we're going to create moment data adapter. And let me enlarge it a bit. So I'm going to use moment as I said, so I'm going to import moment. And I'm going to create a class, moment data adapter, and it's going to extend the native data adapter. As I said, the native data adapter is the implementation of the data adapter with the native date. A lot of dates, I know. And if we'll take a look inside of this code, you have so many functions, and you can override all of them, or you can even implement them differently. But we're going to override the format function, so we can actually format the date, the output date that we're having. So let's have the format. And as you can see, you get date and a display format. We're going to return moment, wrap the date, and return from now. And the next step to actually use it is to go to your app module, and inside the providers, you're going to say, hey, whenever someone asks this provider, data adapter, use the class moment date adapter. All right, it's not getting automatically injected. Let's have it ourselves. So now, if I'll go back to this section here, we're saying every time someone asks the data adapter, which is the interface of the adapters, you will use the moment data adapter that we just wrote. So now you can see that the date that we'll pick will be, let's wait for Webpack to build. All right. So now we'll pick a date, and you can see 13 days ago, 2 days ago. Thank you. So it is pretty, I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with it. You can extend it, you can do your own dates, and even in Material, we have other places that you can actually bind in and overwrite our own implementations. I encourage you to go to the AngularMaterial.io website, which got re-updated. You can see we have cool themes now, which is working. Inside of here, you have the component section and guide sections. Actually, you can go in the guide section, typography, and you can see all the classes available for you to use and how to use it. And you can go to our component section and start using our components. And you can just go and follow our progress on these links. The demo app that I wrote today will be available under Material Beta 7 preview under Elad Bezalel under GitHub. These slides will be available at this link, and I'm going to post them on Twitter. This is my handle. Thank you very much.